I'm going to tell you a story today, but before we get to that, I want to do an activity. So please raise your hand if you have ever participated in a fundraiser where you've gotten a reward for your donation. Be it a coffee mug or a t-shirt, anything like that. Okay, keep your hands up. So, would you have still donated if there was no possibility for a reward? So say you wouldn't have gotten that coffee mug, or that t-shirt didn't exist. Okay, those of you with your hands up, you are great people. Those of you who put your hands up, which I didn't see very many of you, but that's really good, you are all middle schoolers at heart. I was a middle schooler once. We all were middle schoolers once. And so I feel like my 1-ton donation of dehydrated milk every year always brought us to victory. Every year. But in the end, it was just a weird pile of food. It's just how it was. So the next year, one year, before I destroyed my pantry, I realized something and I asked myself a question. The question I want you guys to think about for the rest of the day, for the rest of your lives actually. But this question was, why would anybody, starving or not, want to eat the food that I was so anxious to give away? Really? Why would anybody want to eat this food that you can't even eat without running water? Let's say you don't have running water. How are you going to eat the food? If I'm so anxious to get it out of my pantry, what are you going to do with it? It's not going to make you happy. So I stopped. I did not ransack my pantry that time. Instead, I joined my middle school's leadership team with one goal in mind. My goal was to run the greatest canned food drive in middle school history. I was very ambitious. So I had an idea as to how I would do this, and this idea was to tap into the desires of my peers and the middle school community. And the only way to do this at the time was through mountain bikes. I had the coolest mountain bike, the best mountain bike, and anybody who had a good mountain bike was just so popular. So I knew exactly where to get them. So this middle picture here, if you can see it on the screen, is a picture of the bicycle impound yard at my local police station. So that week, it's bike jail. It's bike jail. These bikes don't have a home. No one's riding them. No one cares about them. These bikes have been stolen or abandoned, and they're in jail. So I went down that week and talked to the officers at the police station. I asked them to kindly donate 2 bicycles, which I would raffle off in my canned food drive. Every student that would donate 2 cans would get a raffle ticket and enter into a drawing to win a bike. This canned food drive was wildly successful. The minute I walked into school with these bikes, I immediately became the most popular kid in that school. Everybody's like, what? Where'd those bikes come from? So it was, in the end, the most successful canned food drive in my school's history, except for one thing. I hadn't actually answered the question that drove me to do this whole drive in the first place. I had essentially created a massive pile of weird food that no one wanted in their kitchens. So instead of just donating my part of this strange food, I created a lot of it. And I looked at this and I was very unsatisfied. And I pondered this for 2 more years until I created the new story. So in my sophomore year of high school, I went to volunteer on site at the Oregon Food Bank, which is the biggest food bank in Oregon. They have many different regional food banks. It covers basically the entire state. And I went to volunteer at the headquarters in downtown by the airport, PDX. And on my way there, I passed this farm that's in the first picture on the left. And I had to go back to the farm to take a picture of it because it was so crucial in founding Green Food Nation. Now, as you can see in this image, this farm has solar panels on it. And at that moment, while I was driving, I thought it was the coolest thing that this farmer was essentially harvesting sunshine on his farm. But then this idea went away. I was driving, started to think about girls, rock and roll. And this idea just went away until I got to the Oregon Food Bank. And in the lobby, I saw a poster that looked a lot like this. It was a pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid was written "one-time donor." at the top of the pyramid were two words: sustaining volunteer. And all of a sudden, these two ideas came together and coalesced to make a big concept. I thought to myself, renewable energy is the ultimate sustaining volunteer, or can be the ultimate sustaining volunteer if it is used correctly. And I'm going to tell you how. So Green Food Nation, just to give you a little bit of background, is a fully functioning 501c3 nonprofit organization which I founded. I'm the president of. Green Food Nation is all about providing donation certainty to food banks and nonprofits focused on eliminating hunger. Now, donation certainty is an interesting thing. A lot of these food banks, the income that they see every year is very unreliable. One family may donate X amount of food one year and Y amount of money one year, then the next year not donate anything at all. So these food banks are constantly looking for the next donation. So what Green Food Nation tries to do is it's attempting to provide donation certainty into these food banks, which in turn provides food security in our communities and for people who go to sleep hungry. It really bugs me that kids my age can go to sleep without having dinner, or without having full 3 meals, or without having any meals at all in one day. Does that bug you guys? It sucks. It's awful. Anyways, so after meeting with food banks, and after learning more, and after volunteering a lot with food banks and the Oregon Food Bank and other regional, smaller nonprofits focused on eliminating hunger, I learned a lot of things. One of these things was that cash is truly king with these nonprofits. So food drives are great. Canned food donations are awesome because they provide the top of the food pyramid, which is diversity and variety within meals. But cash is really where these food banks lie, or how they operate. And so cash actually allows the food banks to buy in bulk from grocery stores or restaurants, and they can buy in bulk. And that's what the second picture is. This is the inside of a regional food bank, where you can see there are stacks of bulk foods which they have bought from cash donations. And so what Green Food Nation tries to do is it tries to take this to heart and bring a steady stream of cash into these nonprofits. So that's one of the things that Green Food Nation tries to do. Now, it's a balanced win-win-win for everybody involved. And I'm going to tell you more about this in a second, but it is truly, in my mind, a new economic model for nonprofits. This conference is all about disruptive thinking and future trends. That's the name of the conference, Foresight, Future Trends. And I believe that for nonprofits, this is a way where this foresight can be achieved, where this is a future trend. This is a new economic model for nonprofits. So this is how it works. So in this model, Green Food Nation is represented by the Green Food Nation logo in the center. And Green Food Nation takes in donations from 3 different parties. So individuals, corporations, and high school or school clubs that are focused on saving the environment or helping hungry people. And all of these donations in the form of capital, infrastructure, and volunteer hours come together and are used to purchase renewable energy systems. So to start off with, Green Food Nation is starting with solar panels. I'll talk about that a little bit more. So these solar panels are then installed or donated to food banks and constantly are creating green energy. Does anybody know how long a solar panel lasts? Anybody? Take a guess. 20 years? What was that? 30 years? That's 30 years. So they're upwards of 30 years. So I've heard some solar panels lasting 50 years. 30 to 50 years is about how they last. And they're very durable, require very little maintenance, and it's really the perfect system for capturing green energy. And so this solar panel that's installed on a food bank captures green energy throughout its entire life, 30 to 50 years. And this green energy can actually be sold back to utility companies for this reliable source of income. So you understand what I'm saying here? Basically, the food bank is getting a paycheck every month from the utility company for the green energy that's produced. So this is that reliable source of income. This is where that donation certainty is created through the use of renewable energy. It's a win-win-win for everybody involved. It's a win for the utility company because they get more green energy on the grid. It's a win for food banks because they have that reliable source of income. And it's also a win for the solar company because we're not asking them to donate their panels. We are taking in donations and then purchasing panels to further our nation's investment in renewable energy. So it's a win-win-win for everybody involved. In my mind, one of the most fantastic things about this model is what I like to call a food multiplier. So as I said before, $1 donated typically to your regional food bank can usually buy around 3 to 4 meals for needy families. And this is great. But $1 donated through Green Food Nation, which is then invested in a renewable energy system, so in this case solar panels, can actually purchase 20+ meals throughout the life of the system. This is because that dollar actually multiplies on itself throughout the life of the entire system. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you not to donate to your food bank. That's not what I'm here to do. But I'm telling you that there are other ways, and we should expand our thinking as to how this money can be actually used more efficiently or can possibly help food banks even more. So this conference is all about discovering future trends and expanding on ideas and creating new ideas, telling you that other ideas and new ideas can be created that can possibly help more people with the same amount of money, same amount of energy. So your dollar is constantly generating more and more food throughout the life of the system in Green Food Nation. Now this is another model. People don't really like to look at graphs too much, so we're not going to look at this for too long. But as you can see, the green line, which is Green Food Nation's sustained spending, is actually the most effective and the most efficient line on the graph. Now, this is because, once again, your dollar is constantly combining and regenerating on itself throughout the entire life of the system. This graph actually shows how one $800 donation can be spent. Now, the blue line, which is the other line I want to talk about, which is the one that is that steep cliff that goes down, is when that one $800 donation is spent one time, which is it can buy 2,400 to 3,200 meals once. But this same $800 donation, if it's invested in Green Food Nation, can actually buy 500 to 600 meals throughout the entire life of the system, which for solar panels is 30 to 50 years. This is much more effective, much more efficient, much more sustainable. It's a much more sustainable way of spending and regenerating money and feeding the community. Now, this comes to the point of the presentation where I talk about how I made this real. Now, believe me, starting a nonprofit is not easy. It's actually harder than starting a profitable business. But then we also have a fully functioning bank account with donations in it. This was made possible by letter writing campaigns or corporate grants. Now, this bank account is actually being used for our first installation, which is going to be in McMinnville, Oregon. So anyways, this is our first installation. As you can see here, it's 5 modules. And the idea behind this installation is that, as you can see here, YCAP, Yamhill Community Action Partnership in McMinnville, is actually a smaller food bank. But the idea behind this is to make a bigger impact in a smaller organization for the first proof of concept, rather than making a small impact in a big organization. So this first installation will be done by the end of the year, and it's really to prove that this Green Food Nation economic model is actually feasible in the long run. Now, why I'm here is I want you to join the nation. Don't get me wrong, this is a sales pitch, okay? You guys have in your booklet, you guys have little magnets. Please go to our website. Please, if you have a Facebook page, like us on Facebook so you can see what we're doing. And also, if you're feeling truly generous, there is a donate button because, after all, where else can you feed 100 people for the price of a Happy Meal? Thank you.